They called themselves the Three Pillars. Emeka, Tunde, Chidi. 3 men. Childhood friends. The kind of friendship that starts on dusty streets, survives secondary school, and somehow, against every odd, makes it to adulthood still intact. They had a dream. Not the kind of dream you whisper in secret. The kind you write on paper, sign your name under, and shake hands over. They were going to build something real. Something that would last. 2 years later, only one of them was still alive. And the one who survived wished he hadn't. Stay with me. To understand what happened at the end, you have to understand who these men were at the beginning. Emeka was the dreamer. He was the one who saw things others couldn't yet see. He could walk into an empty plot of land and describe the building that would stand there, the layout, the floors, the color of the walls. He didn't just have ideas. He had visions. Tunde was the strategist. Quiet. Calculated. The kind of man who rarely spoke in a meeting, but when he did, the room went silent. He could read a spreadsheet the way others read a novel, finding the story inside the numbers, the danger inside the margins. And Chidi. Chidi was the connector. If you needed something done in Lagos, a contact, a government approval, a supplier, a shortcut, Chidi knew someone who knew someone. He moved through the city like water. Effortless. Fluid. Always smiling. Together, they were unstoppable. That's what everyone said. Their family said it. Their classmates said it. Even people who barely knew them could feel it, 3 men like that, combined. Something extraordinary was going to happen. And it did. Just not the way anyone expected. In 2019, they registered their company, Triforce Logistics and Supplies Limited. The name was Emeka's idea. 3 forces. 3 pillars. 1 direction. They pooled their savings, everything they had. Emeka sold land he inherited from his father. Tunde liquidated a small investment account he had been building for 5 years. Chidi brought in a silent investor, a businessman he knew from church, he said. Someone who believed in the vision. They rented an office on the mainland. Hired 3 staff members. Bought 2 trucks. And they started. The first 6 months were difficult. Every business has a painful but, that period where you pour everything in and nothing comes back. They worked 18-hour days. They argued sometimes. Overspending. Over direction. Over who had final say. But they always came back together. Because that's what real friendship does. It absorbs the pressure. By the end of their first year, Triforce was profitable. Not massively, but enough. Enough that they could pay themselves a salary. Enough that they hired 2 more staff. Enough that Emeka's wife stopped looking at him with that quiet, anxious expression she had worn for the first 8 months. They celebrated their first anniversary at a restaurant in Victoria Island. Chidi ordered the most expensive wine on the menu. Tunde laughed and said he was going to record the receipt and frame it in the office. Emeka raised his glass and said, "To the 3 pillars. Nothing can break what we built." They drank. They laughed. None of them knew that in exactly 12 months, 2 of them would be dead. The problem didn't arrive loudly. It never does. The problem crept in the way termites enter a house, silently, invisibly, eating at the foundation long before anything on the surface shows. It started with money. Specifically, it started with the silent investor Chidi had brought in. His name was Chief Raymond 63 years old. Retired civil servant. Heavy man with a slow smile and a voice that always sounded like he was doing you a favor just by speaking to you. He had invested 8 million Nigerian nairas into Triforce at the beginning, a significant sum that had helped them purchase their second truck and cover early operational costs. In return, he held a 20% stake in the company. For the first year, Chief Raymond was invisible. He never visited the office. Never asked for updates. Seemed, genuinely, to be the kind of sleeping investor who trusted the process. But as the company grew, as the contracts grew, Chief Raymond woke up. And when he woke up, he wanted more. It started with suggestions. He called Chidi first. Always Chidi, because Chidi was his man. His contact. The one who had brought him in. He suggested that Triforce should redirect some of its supply contracts through a particular company, a clearing and forwarding agent he had connections with. The rates would be slightly higher, he admitted, but the access to ports would be smoother, he said. Chidi brought the suggestion to the table. Tunde looked at the numbers and said no. The margins didn't make sense. The rates the chief's contact was quoting were inflated by nearly 30% compared to their existing suppliers. It would eat directly into their profit. Emeka agreed with Tunde. Chidi went quiet. That was the first fracture. Not visible yet. Not dramatic. Just a small silence where there used to be agreement. 2 weeks later, Chief Raymond called again. This time, he wasn't suggesting. He told Chidi that as a shareholder, he had the right to push for operational decisions that protected his investment. He said he had spoken to a lawyer. He used words like fiduciary duty and minority shareholder protection. He also said something else. Something that Chidi never told Emeka and Tunde. Not immediately. He said, "Make this happen, and I will double my investment in Triforce next quarter. Refuse, and I will make the next 12 months very uncomfortable for your company." Chief Raymond had connections in places that mattered. Port authorities, customs officers, tax officials. He had spent 30 years inside government. He knew where the buttons were. Chidi sat with that conversation for 3 days. 3 days of not sleeping properly. 3 days of calculating, weighing. And then, quietly, without telling his partners, he began redirecting 2 of Triforce's smaller contracts through Chief Raymond's contact. Just temporarily, he told himself. Just to buy peace. Tunde found out 6 weeks later. Not because Chidi confessed, but because Tunde was the kind of man who read spreadsheets the way others read novels. And something in the numbers didn't add up. He sat across from Chidi in the office one Thursday evening, after the staff had gone home, and he placed a printed ledger on the desk between them. He didn't raise his voice. He just said, "Tell me what this is." Chidi told him everything. About Chief Raymond. About the threats. About his decision to redirect the contracts. About why he hadn't told them. Tunde listened. Then he stood up, picked up his jacket, and walked out. He didn't speak to Chidi for 4 days. When he finally did, he had made a decision. They were going to confront Chief Raymond. Together. Formally. And if necessary, they were going to buy him out, pay him back his investment with interest and remove him from the company entirely. It would cost them. But it would free them. Emeka agreed immediately when Tunde told him. Chidi hesitated. But eventually, he agreed too. The meeting with Chief Raymond was scheduled for a Friday afternoon. They never made it to that meeting. On the Wednesday before the scheduled meeting, Tunde left the office at around 8 p.m. He drove himself, he always drove himself. A dark blue Toyota Camry he had bought the year before, second-hand but well-maintained. He was meticulous about things like that. He never arrived home. His wife called his phone at 9:15 p.m. when dinner was going cold. No answer. She called again at 9:45. No answer. By 11 p.m. she called Emeka. By midnight, Emeka and Chidi were on the road. They found Tunde's car at 1:30 a.m. It was on a stretch of road outside Ojota, a section with no street lights, no cameras, no nearby houses. The car was off the road, partly hidden by bush. The driver's side door was open. Tunde was inside. He was gone. The police initially called it a road traffic accident. The car had signs of impact on the passenger side, consistent, they said, with being struck by another vehicle. The kind of hit and run that happened on Lagos roads more often than anyone wanted to admit. His family accepted the explanation. His children cried at a burial that Emeka couldn't get through without breaking down completely. But Emeka didn't accept the explanation. Because 3 days before Tunde died, Tunde had told Emeka something. He said, "I think Chief Raymond already knows we're coming." Emeka had asked him how. Tunde had just shaken his head slowly and said, "Watch Chidi." Emeka replayed those words every day for the next 3 weeks. Watch Chidi. He watched. He watched the way Chidi moved through Tunde's burial, smooth, composed, speaking to everyone with the right amount of grief in his voice. He watched the way Chidi, exactly 1 week after the burial, suggested they postpone the confrontation with Chief Raymond. "It's not the right time," Chidi said. "We just lost Tunde. The company needs stability." Emeka agreed. But he watched. Here is what Emeka pieced together, slowly, painfully, over the weeks that followed. Chidi had not simply been pressured by Chief Raymond. Chidi had made a deal with him. Not a reluctant deal. Not a desperate one. A willing one. The details emerged through sources Emeka would never fully name publicly: a staff member who overheard a phone call, a document accidentally forwarded to the wrong email, a conversation at a funeral that someone repeated. The deal was this. If Chidi helped Chief Raymond gain operational control of Triforce's most profitable contracts, effectively turning the company into a vehicle for the chief's interest, Chidi would receive a private payout. A significant one. Enough to start over somewhere else. Tunde had seen it coming. That was why he died on a dark road outside Ojota 2 days before he was going to expose everything. And now Emeka was the only one who knew. He didn't confront Chidi immediately. Because he was afraid. That is the honest truth. The truth that Emeka himself has admitted in the years since. He was afraid. He had just watched his closest friend die on a dark road, and he understood now what that meant, what kind of people he was dealing with. So he did something quiet. He started documenting every transaction he could find, every redirected contract, every communication between Chidi and Chief Raymond that passed through company channels. He copied files. He printed records. He kept them at his home, not the office. He also called a lawyer. Not a corporate lawyer. Not anyone connected to their business circles. A lawyer his uncle knew, someone outside Lagos entirely. Someone who had no connections to the web Emeka was beginning to see. He told the lawyer everything. And the lawyer said something that chilled him completely. You need to go to the police. But not the local station. Go to the EFCC. And you need to do it before they realize you know. Emeka filed a report on a Tuesday morning. Chidi died that Thursday. This is the part of the story that changes everything. Because Chidi's death was not what Emeka expected. He had expected, if it came, that Chief Raymond would protect Chidi. That Chidi was the asset. The insider. The man who had delivered Triforce to him. He was wrong. Chidi died in his apartment. The official finding was suicide. An empty bottle of medication beside him. A note, handwritten, that spoke of guilt, of shame, of not being able to live with what he had done to his friends. The note mentioned Tunde by name. It mentioned Emeka. It did not mention Chief Raymond at all. Emeka read the suicide note at the police station when investigators showed it to him. He read it twice. And then he looked up at the investigator and said, Chidi was left-handed. The investigator frowned. The note, Emeka said quietly, was written with the right hand. There was an investigation. It moved slowly, the way investigations into powerful men always move slowly in cities where powerful men know which doors to knock on. But it moved. Chief Raymond Okafor was eventually arrested, 14 months after Chidi's death. The charges included financial fraud, conspiracy, and one charge related to the circumstances of Tunde's death. The investigators never formally charged him with Chidi's death. They couldn't build it cleanly enough. His lawyer was expensive. His connections were deep. The trial stretched. Continued. Was postponed. Recommenced. As of the time this story was researched, Chief Raymond Okafor had not yet been convicted. He had, however, lost everything he built the fraud on. The contracts. The company. The reputation. He now lives in a rented flat in a city 2 states away from Lagos. Old. Quiet. Alone. Some say that's not enough justice. They are right. And Emeka. Emeka left Lagos. He lives in a smaller city now, the kind of place where people mind their own business and nobody knows your history. He started again. Not in logistics. Something smaller. Something that can't grow too big and attract the wrong attention. He doesn't talk about the business often. But in one conversation, the conversation that made this story possible, he said something that has stayed with me since I heard it. He said, the scariest thing was not Chief Raymond. He was just a greedy old man with too much power. The scariest thing was watching Chidi choose. He chose wrong. And I don't think he ever stopped paying for it, even before he died. Tunde knew. That's the part one carry. Tunde saw it before any of us. And we didn't listen fast enough. 3 friends started a business together. They had everything it takes, talent, trust, history, hunger. But one of them, when the pressure came, made a choice. Not in a dramatic moment. Not with a villain speech. He made the choice quietly. In private. Telling himself it was temporary. Telling himself he would fix it later. He never got the chance to fix it. And the man who pressed him into that choice, the chief, the investor, the smiling man from church, he walked into that friendship like a wrecking ball disguised as an opportunity. Here is what this story leaves me with. The most dangerous agreements are not the ones you sign in public. They are the ones you make silently, with yourself, when nobody is watching, when the pressure is high, and when you convince yourself that just this once, it will be okay. Tunde is gone. Chidi is gone. And Emeka carries the weight of both. That is the real cost of the wrong choice. Not just what it does to you, but what it does to everyone who trusted you. If this story stayed with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you believe in loyalty, in the real kind, the kind that doesn't bend when money walks in the room, leave a comment below. I read every single one. I see you in the next story.